15 Minnesotans were arrested yesterday for illegally observing federal immigration enforcement operations. In the press conference, the Justice Department is like, it's not about free speech. The prosecutors actually say that it's about obstruction and interfering with federal officers, but when asked, they couldn't provide any actual evidence. The people charged and their supporters argue that this is really about punishing dissent and sending a message to anyone who opposes government policy. And whether you agree with the arrest or not, the debate itself is nothing new. It's actually one of the oldest debates in American history. One of the biggest myths that Americans tell ourselves is that free speech has always been protected in this country. It hasn't. Just a few years after the Constitution was ratified, people were being arrested in the Alien and Sedition Acts for criticizing the government. During World War I, Americans were jailed for speaking out against the draft and the war, and guess what? The government. During the Red Scare, people lost their jobs, their careers, their entire reputations because of their political beliefs. That was a witch hunt. During the Civil Rights Movement, activists were surveilled, infiltrated, and arrested for demanding that people have rights that most would believe they should have had all along. And let's not forget Vietnam, where anti-war protesters were surveilled, arrested, and in some cases, violently confronted for opposing government policy. The First Amendment wasn't created to protect speech that everyone agrees with. It wasn't created to protect compliments. It wasn't even primarily created to protect speech against your neighbor, your colleague, or your cheating ex. It was created to protect political speech. Speech about the government, speech about people in power. The founders had just fought a king. They understood that if citizens can't criticize their government, then every other right becomes conditional. And throughout history, governments never say, oh, we're punishing dissent. They say they're protecting public order, they're protecting security, or that they're enforcing the law. Sometimes they're right, but more times, history looks back 50 years and decides that they weren't. But this conversation is way bigger than the arrest of those 15 legal observers. The reason that people are speaking out is because immigration enforcement doesn't just affect those that are being detained. It affects entire communities. It affects children who are afraid to go to school. It affects businesses that lose workers. It affects churches, neighborhoods, classrooms. And it affects citizens and non-citizens alike, because fear doesn't stop at legal status. As a teacher in Minnesota, I've watched students carry the weight of immigration policy into the classroom. I've seen students struggle to focus because they are worried about family members or friends, or if they're even safe at school, regardless of status. I've watched communities hold their breath every time enforcement activities increase. And I've also seen communities come together and take care of each other in split seconds, feeding each other, giving rides, and supporting our neighbors. Because if there's one thing about Minnesotans, we take care of our neighbors. It would be dishonest to pretend that these actions don't leave a lasting impact. The economic and social effects do not stop with the people who were detained. They spread outward into the community. Fear changes how communities function. And situations like this force us to ask a question every generation eventually faces. Where is the line between enforcing the law and protecting the right of the people to challenge those in power?